Hello everyone, so welcome to this video where we'll provide you a walkthrough of the basic setup that you're going to need to start learning and developing in Java. The idea with this video is to guide you through three different parts. The first part is going to be installing Java in your machine. The second one is going to be installing an IDE or a code editor, and in our case in this video we're going to use IntelliJ IDEA. The last step we're going to take is creating and running our first Java project. Cool, so first things first, so we're gonna go ahead and install Java in our machine. There are different versions of Java in the market provided by different companies. The one I recommend is provided by a Java community called Adopt OpenJDK. You can go ahead to their website at adoptopenjdk.net and you will be presented straight away with the download options. The JDK is what is called the Java Development Kit, and it contains all the tools that you need to start developing in Java. At the time of recording this video, you can choose between versions 8, 11, and 14. For the purpose of this tutorial, it isn't going to make a big difference which version you choose. However, if you're choosing this for an enterprise project, then my personal preference or my personal recommendation would be to choose a version that has long-term support or LTS. But again, for this tutorial, feel free to choose any of the three. In my case, I'm going to choose JDK 11. The second item that you can choose from is the JVM or the Java Virtual Machine that you want for the Java installation. Again, very similar to the Java version. For the purpose of this tutorial, it doesn't really make a difference, so feel free to choose either of the two. Cool, so we're gonna fast forward until the download completes. Excellent, now that the download is ready, let's proceed with the installation. The JDK installer for Windows provides you with the usual step-by-step wizard that we're used to in Windows machines. So we're going to go ahead and click Next and also accept the license agreement as well. Now, you're going to get to a page that is called the Custom Setup. In this page, just make sure that the Add to Path and Set Java Home variables are being installed. These are installed by default, so you shouldn't need to change anything in this page. Of course, feel free to change the location if you want it installed in a different folder. Now, in my case, I already have Java 11 installed in my machine. So I'm going to close the wizard, and in your case, just continue with the installer until the wizard completes, and then you can proceed with the tutorial. Excellent. Now, the second tool we're going to install is a code editor, or also called an IDE. You can find multiple options in the market provided by different companies as well. I mainly use two different IDEs. One of them is IntelliJ IDEA, and the second one is Eclipse. However, you can find others in the market like NetBeans and Cloud9, among others. In this tutorial, we're going to be using IntelliJ. So we're going to Google IntelliJ IDEA, and you're going to see that Google presents you with the downloads link straight away. So we're going to click on it directly. As you can see, IntelliJ is developed by a company called JetBrains, who provide IDEs for several other languages. In the case of IntelliJ IDEA, they operate in two different versions. There is an ultimate version that is paid, although you can check it out with a free trial that they offer. And there is also a community version, which is free. Of course, the difference is that on the ultimate version, you're going to have features that are not available in the community edition. The table below highlights the main differences, but you can also check the compare editions link for a more detailed comparison. For this tutorial, and in general to start learning Java, the community edition is more than enough. So we'll go ahead and download that one. Okay, we're going to fast forward the video until the download completes. Excellent. The download is complete now, so let's proceed with the installation. The installation of the IntelliJ IDEA is very simple. So we're just going to follow the step-by-step wizard, and I'm just going to stop and explain a few things here and there during the installation process. So let's go ahead and click Next. We're going to leave the default installation location, but you can change it if you want to. There's no problem with that. Now, here on the options screen, IntelliJ presents us with several checkboxes to customize certain parts of the installation. For this tutorial, we don't really need any of these options, and in general, I tend to keep them as is. However, if you like to have program shortcuts on your desktop, then you can do so from here. You can select the 64-bit launcher option. These options are really down to personal preference, and they won't affect the remainder of this tutorial. So I'm going to leave the default start menu options and start the installation process. Excellent. So with the installation complete, I'm going to check the box to start IntelliJ straight away and click Finish. IntelliJ is going to present you with the user agreement, so I'm going to accept that one. And IntelliJ is going to show us the initial configuration options for the IDE. The first thing that IntelliJ is going to ask you is to choose the UI theme that you want to choose for your IDE. You can choose between a dark mode and a light mode. Don't worry about this choice, the same as the ones that we're going to see in the next couple of screens. These choices are impermanent, so if you change your mind later on, you can change them from the IDE settings. All these choices come down to real personal preference, and in my case I prefer to use IntelliJ with the dark theme, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one and click Next. The second page shows you the default plugins that have been installed with your IDE. Plugins provide additional features in the IDE to work with other tools and other languages. In this screen, you can choose to disable some of the default ones. These come bundled with the IDE, and for the purpose of this tutorial, there is no need to change anything, so we're going to go ahead and click Next. Cool, now on the next screen, this is called the Feature Plugins section, and these are plugins that are not yet installed in your IDE. This list, as far as I understand, is based on plugins that are popular at the moment, so I'm not sure if you're going to get the same plugins that I'm seeing or that I'm showing you in this video. However, for this tutorial, we don't need to install anything else. And again, if you need a plugin later on, you can always install it later from the plugins page in the settings. In any case, to give you just a couple of examples from what I'm seeing or what I'm showing you in this video, the EduTools plugin is a plugin that provides additional features to learn and teach programming languages. And the two plugins that you're going to see in the middle, Key Promoter X and IDE Features Trainer, they're going to help you learn IntelliJ IDEA and become a better user of the tool. We won't be installing any additional plugins for this tutorial, so we're going to go ahead and click Start. Excellent, so we're now in IntelliJ's welcome screen, and from here you can create new projects or open existing projects if you have them. Now, this comes down to personal preference, but every time that I open IntelliJ, I always want to get this welcome screen. By default, IntelliJ is going to reopen the last project that you opened before. I personally don't like this. I always like to get the welcome screen when I open IntelliJ. If you want the same behavior, you can go to Settings, and then under the Appearance and Behavior section, you can click on System Settings, and you're going to see a Reopen Last Project on a Startup, so just uncheck that box. In my case, I had already done this as part of this video, so this was already recorded. Again, this is really personal preference, but if you're working on multiple projects, I find the welcome screen to be a very good starting point to choose the project I want to work on. So congratulations, if you reach this point, it means that you now have Java and IntelliJ installed. Now the next step is to create our first Java project. So to start, we're going to click on the Create New Project option. As you can see, IntelliJ gives us several options. Remember that IntelliJ supports other languages, and it also supports multiple tools to work on different kinds of projects. For the purpose of this tutorial, of course, we're going to select Java. And on the right-hand side, there is a Project SDK option on the top. And make sure that the version of Java that you installed is selected. If it doesn't show up, all you need to do is click on the Add JDK option and select the Java installation folder that you used on step number 1. Once that's done, you can click Next. Cool, so the next step is the project template. For the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to ask IntelliJ to create our project from a template that they have. We're going to select the command line application template, which contains a very basic and ready-to-go Java project, which is exactly what we want for this tutorial. We're going to be asked to provide 3 values. First, the name of our project, and in my case, I want it to be called a starter. It can be any name you want, really, so just try to avoid any special characters or other than hyphens and underscores. The second thing it's going to ask us is the location. I'm going to leave the default one because if you see, as I type the name of the project, it changed the location of the project. And the last part is the last input is going to ask us for is the base package. We're going to cover the concept of Java packages in a later tutorial. However, a base package tends to be the reversed version of the domain name of the company. So for example, in my case, as I work for JCoder, Our website is jcoder.io. So we're going to use the reverse of that domain. So it's going to be io.jcoder, and I'm going to add the name of the project, .starter. Again, don't worry too much about this right now for this tutorial. We're going to cover this concept of packages in a future video. Now, when we click Finish, IntelliJ is going to create a project structure based on the template that we chose, and it's going to start loading the project. If you see the status bar at the bottom, IntelliJ is going to indicate that it's loading the project and that it's scanning the project files. So just wait until that process completes and the project is going to be loaded for us. Another thing that is going to happen in IntelliJ every time that you open it is that it's going to show you a tip of the day. These tips will help you become a better user of the tool. Feel free to check them out, but for this tutorial, I'm just going to dismiss this window. Excellent. So now that we have our project loaded in the IDE, we're going to maximize our window, and let's take a quick tour through IntelliJ IDEA. So you're going to see that IntelliJ is going to provide you multiple windows. And different windows are going to show you different details of the project that you're working on. There are some windows that are going to allow you to access other tools that are installed with the IDE. For example, one of the main windows you're going to be interacting with when using IntelliJ IDEA is what is called the Project Tool window, which you can see here on the top left of the IDE. Now, in the main area of the IDE, we're going to have our code editor. Here is where our files will be displayed, and this is where we're going to edit our code, basically. Because we use the project template, IntelliJ automatically created and opened a file called main.java, and this was created automatically for us. And because we chose the template, this main.java file already includes a few lines of code. We have something called a package definition, which you can see on the first line of the file. It also includes a class called main, and it has a method, a static method called main. We're going to cover these concepts as we go along in future tutorials and videos. And you can also read about some of these concepts in more detail if you want to in the Java for Beginners course in our website. However, for the purpose of this tutorial, don't worry if you're not yet familiar with these concepts. We're going to cover them later on. Okay, so back to the IDE windows. Something you're going to notice is that IntelliJ will try its best to keep you focused on the code. It allows us to hide all the things that we don't currently need and reduce the clutter in our screen, basically. So for example, if you're not using the project window, you can click the hide button on the window. If you want to open it again, all you need to do is click on the name of the window. In this case, you can click on project again. And alternatively, in Windows, you can press Alt and the number of the window. You're going to see that every window has a little number associated with it. In the case of the project window, it's going to be Alt 1, and you can use it to open it and hide it. If you're a Mac user, you can press Command plus the number of the window that you want to open or hide. Now, inside the project window, you will be able to navigate the different files that make up your project. It is common practice in Java to keep the source code inside a source folder, which IntelliJ has done for us. Inside this source folder, you will see the Java packages in our project. In our case, because this is a basic example, we only have one package that corresponds to the one that we have in our main.java file, which is io.jcoder.starter. If you open that package, you're going to see that we have our main class, which is basically our main.java file. Another thing to notice in IntelliJ is that it will provide you these icons next to the code when it identifies certain actions that can be performed. For example, in this case, IntelliJ is showing you a play icon to allow us to execute our code directly from the editor. In Java, the classes that can be used as applications, they have a static main method, like we have in our case. Because we have that static main method, IntelliJ detects this automatically, and it shows us this run icon next to the code. If we click on it, IntelliJ is going to allow us to run the code in different modes. So let's go ahead and click Run. Once we click Run, you will notice that the status bar on the bottom displays Build, and this basically tells us that IntelliJ is preparing the code and is building the project for execution. Once it finishes building, you're going to see that a Run window automatically appears at the bottom, and IntelliJ is going to show you the command that it executed behind the scenes. In our case, of course, because this is a Java project, it's going to show that it executed Java. And it also shows you the exit code. In our case, the exit code is 0, meaning that it completed successfully. You're going to see that the template that IntelliJ provided to us included a main method in line 5, right? Methods in Java are delimited by curly braces. So you're going to see that there is an opening curly brace in line 5 at the end, and it finishes in line 7, where there is a closing curly brace. In the middle, there is a comment that says write your code here. You can identify code comments by two main methods, but the one you're going to see in this tutorial is the double forward slash at the beginning. This basically tells the compiler or Java to basically ignore that line. As mentioned before, so the main method defines the entry point for Java application. So if you think of the code as a recipe, if you gave Java a recipe to cook something, then the main method would be the first step of that recipe. It's where it's going to start the different steps that you provide to it. Everything between the braces of your main method will be the additional steps of the recipe. And in our case, we haven't added anything yet. So let's fix that and let's start writing some code. So we're going to write some code to print a message. In Java, we do this by calling a method called system.out.println. And inside the parentheses, you can add the message that you want to print out. For this example, let's print a starter program. As writing system.out.println can be a bit too long, IntelliJ offers us a shortcut. Try typing SOUT and then press tab and it will do the rest for us. So let's do this and let's print a second message. And in this case, let's print second line. Excellent. So now we added a couple of lines of code. They're very simple, but let's try running the project again. So you're going to see that besides the icons next to the code, IntelliJ also allows us to run the project from the navigation bar. It's going to display here the different run configurations in the project. In our case, there's just one, the main class. Don't worry about that too much. It's going to be useful in bigger projects later in later tutorials. And next to that, you're going to see a run button. Excellent. So let's click that run button in the navigation bar. And cool. So now this time, after running the project, you can see that the 2 lines that we added in the code have been printed out in the console. So excellent. You've been able to install Java, install an editor, and you've created your first Java project and added a couple of lines of code and run your Java project to print something out. Now, before we finish this video, I want to show you one last feature that we will be using in future tutorials. This is a feature that I find very helpful when I'm learning a new programming language. On the left-hand side of the code, next to the line numbers, you're going to see that there is an empty space. Now, I want you to go ahead and click that empty space that is next to the line of our first system.out line of code. Once you do that, you're going to see that a little red circle appears in there. This is what is called a breakpoint, and it tells Java that we want the code to stop once it reaches that line of code. If you want to remove a breakpoint, you can just click on the red icon again. For the moment, I want you to keep that breakpoint, which means that Java is going to stop the execution on line number 6, and of course before executing anything else in our code. Now, if you want breakpoints to be taken into account, you need to run the project in what is called debug mode. In IntelliJ and in some other IDEs, this is denoted by a bug icon, and that execution mode tends to be next to the run icon that we got. And this happens very similarly in other IDEs. So yeah, let's go ahead and click the debug option. Once we do that, you're going to see that the line where we added the breakpoint is highlighted, and that a debug window at the bottom will be automatically opened by IntelliJ. In the debug window, you're going to see that the debugger is telling us that the code is currently stopped, and it's going to tell you the line number, and in our case, it's telling us that it's stopped on line number 6 of our main class. You can also open the console to see what has been printed out. And as you would expect, the starter program, that message hasn't yet been printed out because the code is waiting there. So we haven't really executed that line yet. So in the console, we can see that the Java program is being executed, but nothing else has happened yet. Just as a personal preference, I don't like to be switching between the debugger and the console tabs. So let's go ahead and move the console to the side so we can see both windows at the same time. Excellent. Now that we have both windows at the same time, you're going to notice that the debugger tab gives us a few options. In this tutorial, we're going to use the step over option, which basically tells the debugger that we want to execute the line that is highlighted and jump to the next one. So let's click on that one. And as soon as we do that, you're going to see that our first line of code is executed and the message is printed out to the console. Also, you can see that the highlighted line has moved to our second line of code. And this is a way for the IDE to tell us that the debugger is currently waiting there. In our case, the debugger window tells us that the code is waiting in line number 8 now. Line number 7 in our case is ignored because it's empty, so there's nothing to execute there really. We could click the step over option again, or if you want to resume the execution normally, just click on this other icon, which is the resume execution icon on the left hand side. In our case, we're going to click on that icon, and you're going to see on the console that the second line message is printed out and that the program finishes completely. And excellent, congratulations. So you created your first Java project, run it inside an IDE. Of course, this is a very simple project just to introduce some of the tools and some of the concepts. Our application prints out 2 messages and doesn't do anything else yet, as this is just an introduction video. However, concepts like the main method, how to run an application inside an IDE, and how to debug it, these concepts are going to apply in other projects that we're going to see. And we're going to use those concepts in later tutorials. The great thing is that now you have all the basic tools that you need to continue learning Java, to continue with other tutorials. So just to recap very quickly, in this video you downloaded and installed Java, you downloaded and installed IntelliJ IDEA, and you created your first Java starter project. You also learned how to run the code. You also learned how to do some basic debugging. Ask the program to stop and go to the next line. And in later tutorials, we're going to cover concepts like the main method. We're going to cover concepts like classes, packages, among others. If you would like to complement video with theory, you can go ahead and go to the jcoder.io website, and we have a Java for Beginners course there. And in that course, we cover a lot of the theory behind these concepts. And that's it, everyone. So we hope you found this video useful. If you're looking for other videos on specific Java topics, feel free to leave us a message and we're going to look into it. Remember to subscribe and follow us on Facebook if you want to get updates on new content. Thanks for watching.